Boom.
Is worth more than all the world to go. The flame in you, darling, is a fire that never gets cold. You see.
This week on Rambling Sound, my guest is Dino Geangelo, better known for his group, Dino and the Heartspinners. Boy, I tell you what, in the mid-'70s, Dino, that group was just absolutely unbelievable. When were the original Heartspinners? When did that all start?
1961, the original one started, but before that, we were called the Desires, the Fluorescents, and the Mint Juleps.
Tell me a little bit about that group. How did it come together, and who was in the group in the 70s?
The group in the 70s before 55 and 56 with George Goldner. That was Bernard Jones, Cecil Wiley, Jimmy Brown, Alvin Watford, and Joe Odom.
How did you get involved? When did you realize that you could sing and you had a voice that was a little bit different than the rest of the guys?
Well, if you take it back to way back in the old days when my dad was with Capitol Records, he was an A&R man with Capitol Records, and I went to Capitol Records with my dad, and they didn't really know what to do with me because when I first started singing, it was the Rosary Church, Catholic Church. I sang for the priest, Silent Night. And after I did Silent Night, I was almost excommunicated from the church. But my dad used to have a friend, and I didn't know who this guy was, a black guy. And he used to hang around with him a lot. And the guy sang, and he had a group. And they used to come up to the house. I didn't know who it was. It was Bill Kinney from the Ink Spots.
Mm.
He said, "Hey, your kid can sing." You know, I was doing a couple little things, Billy Eckstein, and do a little imitations and stuff like that. And he said, "Jack," which my father's name was Jack. He said, "Hey, your kid can sing. You know, he's really great. You should see what you can do." So he took me down to Capitol Records. This was like in 1955. And 54, 55, I believe, when the 45s first came out. And after that, they didn't know what to do with me. They wouldn't record me because my voice was too rhythm and bluesish. Like Little Willie John, that type of voice.
Right.
You know?
You had a black voice and a white body.
Yeah, but I always liked black music. And I liked the Ames Brothers, I liked the Ink Spots, Zeke Watts, and the Brown Dots. And then I always went back with the Glenn Miller days, like Tex Beneke and stuff like that, because my dad had 78 records. But when the rhythm and blues records started coming out, I believe it was G by the Crows. I knew a guy that was a recording, had a recording company in the Brill Building. His name was George Goldner, and he had Rama and G Records. So I used to go down to him all the time and tell him about all the songs I wrote and this and that and this and that. I wrote 500 songs for BMI and ASCAP. And
500? 500?
Yeah, nothing got released. A lot of the stuff was stolen. A lot of the ideas were stolen. And George knew it from Capitol Records. So he told me, get the hell out of the Capitol Records and come back to us to New York, because that was in California at the time. We're going to go back to my dad and Frank Sinatra and Joey Rizzo, who had the clubs up there. And of course, Sinatra was an up-and-coming guy on Capitol Records, and my dad knew all the records that he recorded. He used to bring home to me and all that stuff. And then he brought me home a group that he discovered. It was the Q's, With You on My Mind, and Wake Up Every Morning, You're on My Mind. It was from Capitol Records. It was like almost like the Five Keys. And after that, what happened was I got the sound through them and a few other groups and the Ink Spots. Then I used to listen to Wagner, opera records. Now, these were 78 records, Cry of the Valkyries and all that stuff. And then I used to listen to Chopin and all that stuff, and they had Gregorian chants in it. I can't describe to you, like, they had off keys. They went, you know, that type thing.
Yeah.
And I used it along with what I was singing and what I would write. And sure enough, the sound came out of the Heartspinners.
As you can hear, Dino was pretty sharp for someone that's almost 80 years old. His memory is really incredible. A couple of stories he told me. One was the fact that he and Richie Bond had a relationship that was just so close with their love for the music. The other one is the story he's going to tell us now about how he went on stage as the Fascinators and how he eventually turned over the group to Tony Pasolacqua. This is interesting.
Now, the group today goes back to 1961. And that's when Richie and me knew. I haven't seen Richie Bond, the bass, in years. So when we were doing the stuff on Bim Bam Boom, Richie was promoting other groups, like the Pearl Divines and 2 or 3 other groups that he had, the Love Notes and everything. He was producing them and working with them and everything in the studio and everything. He was their manager. But Rich was my first bass, Richie Bond. Richie was singing with a group called the Indians, and they were on Barrier Records. And I was singing with the Innovators, who were the Heartspinners on Bam Bam Boom. But then Richie and me got together, and we decided, well, you know, my group, the group that I was singing with, the Innovators, they went with Tony Pasolacqua and Earl Lewis. They became part of the Channels and part of the
Fascinators?
the guys at the Chapel Bells. The
Fascinators.
And Sal Mondrone, who had Bim Bam Boom Records, and Steve Flam and Bob Galgano. They knew we had the group. So we appeared as the Fascinators on the 13th original rock and roll Gus Gossard show on 13th Street in New York. The Academy of Music.
Was Tony Passa with you? Was Passa part of that group?
No, he wasn't. We were going as a fictitious name because they couldn't find the Fascinators. But we didn't know Tony Pasolacqua was in the audience. So at the time when we did the show, I didn't feel good about it because I never copied Tony's lead when we were doing the show. I did Who Do You Think You Are, but I did it more in a Charles Brown type voice.
Tell me, oh so blue, tell me who do you think you are? Well, who do you think you are? I love you so, but then you took my love and let me go. Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are?
Records was there, and they wanted to sign us up right away. And I said, in the meantime, I was still in contact with Richie Bond, and we said, something's not right there. You know, it doesn't sound right as if we had the original group. So I stepped down and let Tony have the group. And of course, I was hanging around with a lot of guys in the 50s, Solomon Burke, Joe Tex, Arthur Conley. They used to be up at Atlantic Records all the time and up at George's office. And Solomon Burke and me got to be good friends. So he said, why don't you come up to Atlantic and see Jerry Greenberg and see what the hell he can do? But I never pursued the fact that I went up there to Atlantic Records. But anyways, to make a long story short, Rich and me got together, and we went in the studio, and we recorded at Bell Records. We recorded so many records, and we got Freddie Marcano from the Young Tones. We got Alice Dinesty from the Delights. We had Butch Roundtree, and we had Johnny Washington from the Washingtonaires. We had Tommy with us, Tommy Lee, and Mike Reagan. It was just an amazing sound that we had, and we kept that sound for 35 years.
To a lot of people, that is classic stuff, what you guys did.
But a lot of the stuff we have now, and I wish I could get somebody up there to Dundee to go over with us in Florida. They're down in Florida, but Richie's got real tapes. He's got CDs that it goes all the way back to 61, 60, 59 in that area. And some of those records are absolutely great. It's just amazing, the groups that came out of Harlem, that came out of the Bronx, that were never discovered.
Exactly.
And I say this, that were never discovered, Butch, Roundtree, and the Tellers. They never were discovered. And look at Paul Hammerstein. He was one of the most underrated singers there ever came when he had the Heartbreakers. Now, when we were called, before the Heartspinners, we were called the Five Spinning Hearts. Now, Jimmy Wright got together with us, and he said, no, you're a spinner of hearts. And he kept on saying it and saying it. And then Rich and me went to Jimmy one night, and he said, I got the name for the group, the Heartspinners. And that's how it started.
Good story. Hey, tell me, when did you stop singing and why?
I stopped singing right after that show we did with Mark Delgado in 2008, because we thought there were going to be big things for the group. Donnie Cruz from the Harp Tones and the Solitaires. He had a group called the Crystals way back in the old days with Joe Patriarca and all them guys from the Bronx. And I stopped singing then because the sound was no longer, you had the rap artists come in, and the music today really sucks. It really does.
I think a lot of people agree with you.
Nobody can sing. Nobody can sing.
Any particular fond memories? I mean, as you look back, especially on the Heartspinners time, anything that sticks out in your mind from those days, or any particular song?
Yeah, the original group called "Fool for You," which we recorded on Bell Sound.
What year?
That was in 1959.
Oh, so that's going way back. That's going way back, because the Heartspinners that I'm familiar with and the Heartspinners that I really like, the only Heartspinners that I know, are the ones from the mid-'70s. And to me, that was classic music.
But this is the story of the original Heartspinners, and there'll never be another sound like that again, as long as I know.
I agree. Great sound. Let me ask.
We did that thing, "Fool for You," and George Gomer went nuts. He dropped the studio, and Jimmy came in, and he says, "Now, I can put that right behind the Crows, I Love You So," and they never know. And it was that dum, dit dum, dit dum, dit dum, dit dum, dit dum, dum. I'm a fool for you, even though I know you'll never be true. In my heart, I know there's nothing I can do. I'm just a fool for you.
You still-
oh, I'm a fool for you. Puppet on your string. You know, that type thing.
You still got it, Dino.
that was
You still got it.
That was the rhythm and blues sound, you know. And George dropped everything, and he came in the studio, and he said, oh, I got to record that. And they did record it, but nothing ever happened with it. You know what I mean? It never got pressed, you know?
Yeah. Well, look, I appreciate this. Good to talk to you.
All right. Take care, babe.
Okay.
See you later.
You
Send my
too.
love to everybody down there, you and your family. God bless, and I hope everybody just keep on, rocking. You know what I mean?
I got it, and I'll do what you do.
Baby. Got to keep rocking. Have mercy.
Boom, 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 boom.
I have to agree with Dino. I don't think there'll ever be another sound quite like they had in the mid-'70s. A very unique group with some pretty stuff that they released. Some of it we were playing underneath. The music that Richie Bond has that they recorded back in the late 50s, mid-50s, early 60s that was never released. I'm working with Richie to try to get some of that. We want to get it copied over so that not only we can listen to it, but that music will be around for generations to come. Let me close this interview with an a cappella version from Dino and the Heartspinners. Good night from us to you.
Say good night. It's been wonderful being here with you. From the bottom of our spinning hearts, we sang a few songs for you. And so we're saying good night from us to you.